Venezuela. He received a full scholarship.
Smallest towns, people are rising up in defense of their rights.
Joining me now is a person who knows firsthand what life under Chavez and now Maduro is like. Daniel Martino. Daniel was born and raised in Venezuela. He received a full scholarship to attend Indiana's Purdue University, where he is a junior, and he's studying quantitative economics. Daniel, welcome, and good luck with your studies. First, tell us, how do you feel these days when you're following the developments in Venezuela from the United States? Are you optimistic or rather concerned?
I am very optimistic, actually. What I would tell you is that what's going on right now in Venezuela is a really dire situation humanitarian-wise. More than 5 million Venezuelans, more than 5 million people from my own country have fled, including myself. It is possible that 10 million of us will flee the country by the end of this year. So what's going on is really dire, but I'm very hopeful with what's going on with Guaido and what actions the international community is taking.
We just heard Vice President Mike Pence telling Venezuelan exiles in Florida that the United States is with them. So as a Venezuelan who moved to the United States, what does it mean to you to see such support coming from the White House?
I think that it shows the commitment of Vice President Pence especially, and also the influence that people like Marco Rubio has had on the administration that support democracy in Venezuela, that also support democracy in countries like Cuba and Nicaragua, who are oppressed by socialist regimes like the one they had to flee from. So what I would say is that it's a very good sign of the administration and that they really need to keep this policy up.
Daniel, you know, some people here in the United States believe that openly supporting Guaido is a mistake because it means intervening in Venezuela's internal politics and power struggle. What do you say to them?
Well, first, let me tell you that it is the policy of every government to recognize any other government. That is internal policy of the United States, whichever president they want to recognize. But at the same time, I would tell you that according to the most recent and last independent poll that exists in Venezuela, mega-analysis, it says that 83% of Venezuelans recognize Guaido as the president of the country, and less than 5% recognize Maduro, while the rest is just undecided. And I can also tell you that 83% of Venezuelans, the same percentage that support Guaido, also support an international intervention that would bring humanitarian aid to the country, like Pence is supporting.
Tell us a bit about your life in Venezuela. How did you or your family experience the poor conditions there? I know your parents had left Venezuela last year, right?
Yes, that's right. So what happened was that, well, I was born the same year Chavez came to power in Venezuela, actually. My mom was pregnant when he won the elections in December 1998. Those were the first and the only elections he won fairly. After that happened, even since I was a baby, we were robbed. Crime started going up. If you see the statistics of the murder rate increased almost every year since Chavez became the dictator in Venezuela in 1999. And shortages of food, I had to make lines of hours to find goods. So that is why I feel very upset many times when I hear people in the United States or any other part of the world who've never been to a socialist country like I have, that they say that it is not those policies who cause that basically dire humanitarian crisis. Those policies are the cause of this crisis.
So that's exactly what I wanted to ask you. You're part of a generation who grew up without really knowing Venezuela as the prosperous country it used to be in South America. Who do you blame for this current dire situation? Is it Chavez, is it Maduro, or is it socialism?
It is socialism. The reality is that Venezuela had started pursuing some very interventionist government policies, even since the 1970s when the oil was nationalized. But the real authoritarian socialism and the old nationalization of every industry came in 1999 with Chavez. Now, these policies meant that nobody could have private property if they were big businesses, so companies started being arbitrarily expropriated by the president. Imagine if Trump started to walk on the streets of New York City and pointed at the Empire State Building and said that that's not private property anymore. That's exactly what Chavez did. So he destroyed all our production, and then he closed off our borders from imports and international trade, so there's nothing to eat.
Before we let you go, is there one thing that you really want the world to know about your country?
Yes. Venezuelans want our President Guaido to be recognized around the world. This is not something that should be categorized as partisan or as right or left-leaning. I think it is bipartisan to support democracy. And if Venezuelans want this for democracy, the rest of the world should support us. And Venezuelans need this humanitarian aid. John Bolton has just announced that this humanitarian aid is underway. So I just ask the support for president, and I ask that people don't support the same policies that destroyed our country in their own.
Daniel DiMartino, the world just heard you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.